Every morning is a reset button. Before the world talks to you, before problems show up, before distractions take control, your mind is being shaped. If you don't build your mind in the morning, life will build it for you, and life is not gentle. Denzel Washington often speaks about preparation, discipline, and responsibility. Building your mind every morning isn't about hype or motivation. It's about training your thoughts, protecting your focus, and setting your standards before the day tests you. What you feed your mind in the first hour determines how you respond to pressure for the rest of the day. Strong mornings create strong decisions. Strong decisions create strong lives. This is not about perfection. This is about consistency. Before the day even begins, before the noise of the world reaches your ears, there is a moment that belongs only to you. That moment is powerful, and most people waste it. They wake up and immediately hand their minds over to chaos. Messages, news, problems, other people's opinions. By the time they stand up, they are already reacting instead of leading. That's not how strong minds are built. If you don't take control of your morning, your day will control you. And if your day controls you long enough, your life will follow. Control is not about force, it's about intention. It's deciding before anything happens who you are going to be when it does. The morning is where discipline is born. Not later, not when things calm down, not when you feel ready. Right there, when the bed is warm and the world is quiet. That choice, to rise with purpose instead of drifting into distraction, is the first victory of the day, and victories, no matter how small, build confidence. Most people confuse being busy with being productive. The morning teaches you the difference. When you start your day in chaos, everything feels urgent, everything feels heavy, and nothing feels meaningful. When you start with control, you move with clarity. You act instead of react. You decide instead of drift. Your mind is most impressionable in the morning. That's when it's either strengthened or weakened. What you allow into it during those first moments sets the tone. Fear, comparison, and stress are loud. Clarity, purpose, and discipline are quiet. If you don't choose the quiet on purpose, the noise will choose for you. Control begins with stillness, a few minutes of silence, a few deep breaths, a moment to remind yourself who you are and what matters. You don't need a perfect routine. You need a deliberate one, something that tells your mind, I'm in charge today. When you rush into the day without grounding yourself, you carry other people's priorities instead of your own. You become reactive. Someone cuts you off and your mood shifts. One bad message and your focus is gone. That's not strength, that's surrender. Starting with control doesn't mean the day will be easy. It means you'll be ready. Pressure will still come. Problems will still appear. But instead of panicking, you respond. Instead of complaining, you adjust. That's the difference between a trained mind and an untrained one. A controlled morning builds emotional discipline. It teaches you that you don't have to obey every feeling. You don't have to check everything immediately. You don't have to rush just because the world is rushing. You move at your pace, guided by intention. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you started your day on your terms. It changes the way you speak, the way you walk, the way you handle challenges. People feel it even if they can't explain it. That confidence doesn't come from motivation. It comes from order. Discipline in the morning is an act of self-respect. It's saying, my mind matters. My direction matters. You wouldn't let a stranger walk into your house and rearrange everything. Yet every morning, people let the world walk into their minds and do exactly that. Control also means preparation. Looking at the day ahead and deciding how you will show up. Not hoping things go well, but choosing how you'll respond if they don't. That decision made early saves you later. Some mornings will be hard. You'll feel tired. You'll feel unmotivated. That's exactly when control matters most. Anyone can be focused when they feel good. Strength is built when you're tired and still choose clarity. This isn't about perfection. Some days you'll miss it. Some days the chaos will win. The goal isn't to be flawless. It's to be consistent. Every time you choose control, even briefly, you strengthen the habit. And habits shape lives. When you start your morning with control, you send a message to yourself, I am not a victim of circumstances. I am a participant in my own life. That belief changes everything. Over time, controlled mornings create disciplined days. Disciplined days create focused weeks. Focused weeks build intentional lives. It all begins in that first decision before the world demands anything from you. So don't give your mornings away. Guard them. Shape them. Use them to build your mind before the world tries to break it. Because when you start your day with control instead of chaos, you don't just survive the day, you lead it. Mental strength is not something you turn on when life gets hard. It's something you build long before the pressure arrives. And the foundation of that strength is discipline. Not motivation, not excitement. Discipline. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. Some mornings you wake up ready to conquer the world. Other mornings, the weight of life sits on your chest before your feet touch the floor. If your mindset depends on motivation, your strength will rise and fall with your emotions. Discipline doesn't work like that. Discipline shows up whether you feel like it or not. Discipline is a quiet agreement you make with yourself, an agreement that says, I will do what needs to be done, regardless of how I feel. That agreement, honored daily, builds a mind that doesn't panic under pressure. Every strong mind you admire was trained through routine, repetition, and responsibility. There's nothing glamorous about it. It's waking up when you want to sleep. It's focusing when distraction feels easier. It's choosing effort when excuses are available. Over time, those choices shape your identity. Discipline teaches your mind that comfort is not the priority, growth is. And growth always asks something of you. Time, energy, attention, sacrifice. If you're not willing to give those consistently, your mind stays weak no matter how much potential you have. A disciplined mind understands structure. It knows when to work and when to rest. It doesn't drift through the day reacting to whatever shows up. It moves with intention. That structure creates clarity, and clarity creates confidence. Confidence is not loud. It doesn't need validation. It comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, small or large, you reinforce that trust. Miss enough promises, and self-doubt grows. Keep enough promises, and doubt loses its voice. Discipline also trains emotional control. You stop letting moods dictate your actions. You learn that feeling tired doesn't mean you stop. Feeling discouraged doesn't mean you quit. Feeling afraid doesn't mean you retreat. You feel the emotion, but you don't obey it. Life will test you in unpredictable ways. Discipline prepares you for that unpredictability. When chaos hits, a disciplined mind looks for order. When pressure builds, it falls back on habits. That's why habits matter more than goals. Goals point the direction, but habits carry you there. Discipline is built in the small moments. Making your bed, starting on time, finishing what you start, staying focused for 10 minutes longer than you want to. These moments don't feel important, but they train your mind to respect effort. Many people wait for discipline to feel good before they commit to it. That day never comes. Discipline often feels uncomfortable. That's not a sign you're doing it wrong. That's a sign it's working. Comfort rarely produces strength. A disciplined mind also knows when to say no. No to distractions that steal focus. No to habits that weaken energy. No to environments that pull you away from who you're trying to become. Every no protects a bigger wise. There will be days when discipline feels heavy, when you question why you're pushing so hard. Those are the days that matter most. Anyone can be disciplined when life is easy. Strength is built when it's not. Discipline doesn't mean being harsh with yourself. It means being honest. It means holding yourself to standards because you respect your potential. It's not punishment, it's preparation. Over time, discipline sharpens your mind. You think clearer, you react less, you focus longer, you handle pressure better. People may call it confidence or talent, but it's discipline showing itself. You don't need to be extreme, you need to be consistent. Small disciplined actions repeated daily build a mind that doesn't break easily. That mind becomes your greatest asset. When discipline becomes part of who you are, motivation becomes optional. You no longer wait to feel ready. You move because it's time. And that ability to act without waiting for perfect conditions is what separates strong minds from fragile ones. In the end, discipline gives you freedom. Freedom from excuses. Freedom from emotional chaos. Freedom from regret. Because a disciplined mind knows it gave its best even when it was hard. And that knowledge, that quiet certainty, is the true foundation of mental strength. The most important conversation you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. It happens quietly, constantly, and whether you realize it or not, it's shaping every decision you make. Long before the world tells you who you are, you've already told yourself a story. And that story determines how far you go. Your self-talk is not harmless background noise. It is instruction. It tells your mind what to focus on, what to fear, and what to believe is possible. If that inner voice is weak, doubtful, or negative, it doesn't matter how talented you are. Eventually, you'll talk yourself out of your own potential. Every morning, before anyone speaks to you, your mind is already speaking. Some people wake up and immediately remind themselves of everything that's wrong, what they lack, what they failed at, what they didn't become yet. Then they wonder why the day feels heavy. That weight didn't come from the world, it came from within. Strong people don't have fewer doubts. They have stronger direction. And that direction is built through deliberate self-talk. They don't deny reality, but they refuse to let negativity drive the conversation. They correct their thoughts the same way a coach corrects an athlete, not to tear them down, but to sharpen them. If you speak weakness to yourself long enough, your actions will follow. You'll hesitate when you should move. You'll quit when you should push. You'll settle when you should demand more from yourself, not because you can't do better, but because you convinced yourself you couldn't. Self-talk is either training you or betraying you. There is no neutral ground. Pay attention to how you talk to yourself when things go wrong. Do you say, I always mess this up? Or do you say, I'll learn from this? One closes the door. The other keeps it open. The words are different, but the outcome is dramatically different. You don't need to lie to yourself. This isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about speaking truth with strength, saying, "This is hard, but I can handle hard." Saying, "I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm moving." That word, yet, keeps hope alive. The mind believes repetition. Whatever you tell it most often becomes familiar, and familiar becomes comfortable. That's why negative self-talk is so dangerous. It feels normal. And breaking what feels normal takes intention. Strong self-talk doesn't happen by accident. You have to practice it. You have to catch yourself when your thoughts drift into self-doubt and redirect them. Not once, not twice, repeatedly. That repetition builds a mental habit, and habits shape identity. When pressure hits, and it will, the voice you've been training is the one that will respond. If you've trained fear, fear will speak. If you've trained confidence, confidence will answer. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall back on your training. The world will criticize you. You don't need to help it. Be your own encourager, not your own enemy. Hold yourself accountable, yes, but accountability without belief becomes punishment. Balance discipline with belief. How you speak to yourself also affects how long you last. Life is not a sprint, it's endurance. If your inner voice is constantly tearing you down, you'll burn out mentally long before you reach your destination. But when your self-talk fuels you, you keep going even when it's hard. Greatness begins with permission. The permission you give yourself to try, to fail, to grow. Many people never start because their own voice tells them they're not ready, not worthy, not enough. Silence that voice and movement begins. Look at the people who carry themselves with quiet confidence. They're not arrogant. They're not loud. They're grounded. That grounding comes from inner dialogue that says, "I know who I am. I know what I'm working toward." That clarity is powerful. Your self-talk also shapes your character. When you remind yourself of your values, you're less likely to compromise them. When you speak purpose into your actions, you move with integrity even when it's inconvenient. This is especially important in the morning. The way you speak to yourself at the start of the day sets direction, not outcomes. Direction. And direction matters more than mood. A strong direction can carry a tired body. A weak direction can't carry anything. You don't need long speeches. You need consistent reminders, simple, strong statements that align your mind with your goals. Stay focused. Do the work. Be patient. Finish strong. Those words, repeated daily, build mental muscle. Over time, your self-talk becomes automatic. And when it does, life feels different. Challenges feel manageable. Setbacks feel temporary. Pressure feels purposeful. Not because life got easier, but because your mind got stronger. At the end of the day, nobody lives inside your head but you. Choose to make that place a training ground, not a battlefield. Speak to yourself with honesty, strength, and direction. Because the voice you listen to the most will decide the direction you go. Life does not wait for you to feel ready. It moves forward with or without your confidence, your plans, or your comfort. Pressure is not a possibility, it's a guarantee. The question is not whether you will face it, but how prepared your mind will be when it arrives. And preparation doesn't happen in the moment. It happens before the moment ever shows up. Every day brings its own test. Some are small, almost invisible. Others hit you hard and fast. If your mind isn't trained, pressure feels overwhelming. It feels personal. It feels like an attack. But when your mind is prepared, pressure becomes information. It tells you where you are strong and where you still need work. A prepared mind doesn't panic. Panic comes from surprise. When you expect challenges, they lose their power to shock you. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What's required of me right now?" That shift alone changes outcomes. Preparation starts with honesty. You don't prepare your mind by pretending life is easy. You prepare it by acknowledging that difficulty is part of the process. Strong people don't expect smooth roads. They expect resistance, and they train accordingly. Morning preparation is not about predicting everything that could go wrong. It's about deciding in advance how you will respond when something does. You choose patience before impatience shows up. You choose focus before distraction knocks. You choose discipline before fatigue makes excuses sound reasonable. When pressure comes, your mind will fall back on whatever you've practiced most. If you've practiced complaining, you'll complain. If you've practiced focus, you'll focus. If you've practiced quitting, you'll quit. Preparation is simply training your default response. Most people wait until they're under pressure to figure out who they are. That's too late. Pressure reveals, it doesn't create. It shows you what's already there. If you want strength to show up, you have to build it first. Preparation also means emotional awareness. You don't ignore your emotions, but you don't let them lead. You recognize fear without obeying it. You acknowledge stress without surrendering to it. A prepared mind understands that emotions are signals, not commands. When challenges appear, a prepared mind looks for responsibility instead of blame. Blame weakens you because it gives your power away. Responsibility strengthens you because it puts the power back in your hands. You may not control what happens, but you always control how you respond. Pressure exposes habits. That's why habits matter so much. When your mind is tired, you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your habits. Good habits become your safety net. They catch you when willpower runs low. Preparation builds resilience. Resilience is not toughness without feeling. It's the ability to feel and still move forward. A prepared mind bends without breaking. It adapts without losing direction. There will be moments when everything feels heavy. Deadlines, expectations, responsibility. If you haven't prepared, that weight can crush you. But if you have, it becomes manageable. Still heavy, but manageable. That difference is everything. A prepared mind also understands perspective. Not every problem is a crisis. Not every setback is the end. Pressure tends to shrink your vision if you let it. Preparation keeps your vision wide. It reminds you that this moment is part of a longer journey. You don't prepare by avoiding difficulty. You prepare by exposing yourself to controlled challenge, by doing hard things on purpose, by stepping into discomfort daily. That's how the mind learns, I can handle this. Preparation doesn't eliminate fear. It gives you something stronger than fear, direction. When you know why you're doing something, pressure loses its power to confuse you. Purpose anchors you. Many people want confidence without preparation. That confidence doesn't last. Real confidence is built. It comes from knowing you've done the work. That knowledge stays with you when things get uncertain. When you prepare your mind daily, you stop being surprised by life's demands. You expect effort, you expect resistance. And because you expect it, you're not shaken by it. Pressure will come. That's not up for debate. What is up to you is whether it breaks you or builds you. The answer is decided long before the pressure arrives. Prepare your mind and pressure becomes a test you're ready to take, not a weight you weren't ready to carry. Before you chase results, before you measure success by numbers or applause, you have to understand why you're doing any of it in the first place. Purpose is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Without it, effort feels heavy, discipline feels pointless, and progress feels empty. Purpose is what gives your mind direction when the path gets hard. Every morning, you wake up with a choice. You can move through the day reacting to demands, or you can move with intention. Intention comes from purpose. When you know why you're doing something, distractions lose their power. You stop chasing everything and start committing to what matters. Purpose is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's simply a sense of responsibility. To your family, to your future self, to the people who depend on you, even if they haven't met you yet. That responsibility gives weight to your actions. It turns ordinary days into meaningful ones. A mind without purpose is easily discouraged. One setback feels like failure. One delay feels like defeat. But a purposeful mind understands that setbacks are part of the assignment. They don't change the mission, they shape it. When your purpose is clear, mornings feel different. You don't need hype to get moving. You don't need external validation to stay focused. You move because there's work to be done. That quiet commitment is powerful. Purpose also simplifies decisions. When you know what you're building toward, it becomes easier to say no. No to distractions. No to shortcuts. No to things that pull you away from your values. Purpose acts like a filter. It keeps what aligns and removes what doesn't. There will be days when motivation disappears completely. Those are the days purpose shows its value. Motivation is emotional. Purpose is foundational. Motivation asks, how do I feel today? Purpose asks, what needs to be done? One fluctuates. The other endures. Serving something bigger than yourself strengthens your mind in ways personal ambition never can. When your work benefits others, quitting feels different. Complaining feels smaller. Fear loses its grip. Because now it's not just about your comfort, it's about your contribution. Purpose keeps you grounded when success comes. It reminds you why you started and who helped you along the way. It protects you from ego, and ego unchecked ruins more progress than failure ever could. Purpose also gives pain meaning. Struggle without meaning feels unbearable. Struggle with meaning becomes training. When you know your effort matters, you can endure far more than you thought possible. Every talent you have carries responsibility. Skills are not just for personal gain, they're tools for impact. When you understand that, you stop wasting your potential. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You show up and use what you have. Purpose doesn't require perfection. It requires honesty. You don't have to know every step. You just have to know the direction. Direction is enough to keep you moving. A purposeful mind doesn't measure success only by outcomes. It measures success by alignment. Did I act according to my values? Did I give my best? Did I stay true even when it was difficult? Those questions build inner strength. When mornings begin with purpose, the day becomes intentional. You don't drift. You don't get lost in comparison. You focus on your assignment. That focus builds momentum. Purpose also creates resilience. When life tests you, and it will, you don't break as easily. You bend, you adapt, you keep going. Because quitting would mean abandoning something bigger than your temporary discomfort. Many people reach their goals and still feel empty because they chased achievement without meaning. Purpose fills that gap. It gives success depth. It turns achievement into legacy. Legacy is not what you leave behind. It's what you build into people while you're here. Your words, your example, your consistency. Those things outlast titles and trophies. When your mind is anchored in purpose, anxiety loses its grip. You stop worrying about everything and start focusing on what matters now. Clarity replaces noise. Purpose doesn't make life easier. It makes it clearer, and clarity is strength. So every morning, remind yourself why you're doing the work. Not for applause, not for validation, but for impact, for growth, for responsibility, for the person you're becoming and the lives you're meant to influence. When your purpose is strong, your mind becomes steady. And when your mind is steady, nothing can easily shake you.